So let's start with what are measures of center. Okay, and they are just pieces of data that describe a typical value of a data set. So typical meaning occurring often, describing this data set well. Okay, a typical value of a data set. The mean, like we talked about yesterday, is one measure of center. So we sort of spent one day on just that particular measure, and that is included as a measure of center. It gives us an idea about a typical measure of the data set. The mean gives us an idea of the average of all the numbers. All right, the two others that we're going to talk about today are the median of the set. And the median is just the middle value. So the number, if you line all the numbers up in a data set from least to greatest, the number that's exactly in the middle is the median. Okay, to find the median, you can list the values from least to greatest. And then cross off at the same time. So cross off the least, cross off the greatest. Then cross off the next least, and the next greatest, and the next least, and the next greatest, until you're left with one number in the middle, and that's your median.
And then also, if there's two, don't you add them?
If there's two, so if you have an even number and you're, crossing off greatest, least, and you end up with 2 in the middle, you find the average or the mean of those 2 numbers that are left. Add and divide by 2, right? We'll do some examples. Okay, or find the mean of the last 2 values. If you get down to 2, it's the number that is the mean or the average, like we talked about yesterday, of those last 2 values. The final measure of center, so mean was 1, median was 1, and mode is the third. The mode is the value or values, there can be more than one mode, that occur most often in a data set. So the mode will be the number or the value that comes up the most in a data set. Okay, you can have one mode if there's one piece of data that comes up the most. You could have more than one mode if there are, 2 or 3 numbers that all come up the same amount. Or you can have no mode in a data set. So there are different possibilities for the mode. You'll always have an average. You'll always have a median. But you may not have a mode, or you might have more than one mode. So that's the only one that there could be more than one or none or one. So the number or the value that occurs the most often. All right, here's what we've got. We've got a bunch of bowling scores. You don't need to write this all down if you don't want. You can watch up here, or you can sort of make little notes in your notes. Okay, bowling scores. It says find the median and the mode of the bowling scores. Now, to find the median, we could write these out from least to greatest. Sometimes that's helpful. You can also, if you are able, just cross off. So let's start with the median. Okay, I'm going to find my highest number in the data set, which is 205. And I'm going to cross it off. And I'm going to find my lowest number in my data set, and I'm going to cross it off. And now I do it again. What's the highest number that's left? 175. And the lowest number that's left? 105. So I'm crossing off the highs and the lows. Then I have 160. I only cross off one of them at a time. And then 120.
No.
Yeah? Yeah. And then still 160 is my highest. and 125. Now I'm left with 2. I can't cross these both off and be like, I don't have a median. I need to find the middle, the number in between 135 and 145. To do this, I find the average. So add them, divide by 2. Right? So I get 140. Wait, I want to do the math though. Because it's not always going to be that you can just find the number that's in between them. If you can, that's great. We can see that 140 is smack in between, right? So
I did the math because 135 plus 145 is 280.
That's what I was looking for. Perfect. 280 divided by 2 gives me 140. Very good. So our median is 140 of this data set. Now, let's do the mode. I'm going to erase all this writing. The mode is the number that comes up the most. And we saw what this was as we were going through. Liam, what was it?
160.
Good. Because we had this 160 twice. This was the only number that came up more than once. So the mode is 160. Okay, because it's the number that came up the most. In this case, twice. Everything else just came up once. Here's one where, I don't know, it looks like they took a poll or something. Like, what's your favorite type of movie? And people answered either comedy, drama, or horror.
Or action.
Or action, thank you.
How are you supposed to divide?
Okay, so let me show you. We're going to organize the data in a table and then find the mode. Remember, the mode is the number that comes up the most. So let's do it like this. Let's say comedy, horror, action, and drama. And what we'll do is we'll just go through and count how many of each there are. And then we can have a little table where we can clearly see which one comes up the most. Let's start with comedy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 people said comedy. Then let's do horror. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And drama. 1, 2, 3, 4 people chose drama. Now we can clearly see, what is the mode of this set of data? Comedy. It came up the most. This is the mode. Okay, you can find, as you see, the mode of data that's not numbers. You cannot find a median of this because we can't find a median of comedy, horror, action, and drama. You could find a median of the numbers, but you can't find a median or a mean just from words, right? You can find a mode because you can see which one comes up the most. Okay, so you can find modes of non-numerical data. All right, let's do one more. Here we go. 7 contestants eat 26, 33, 34, 2, 32, 34, and 42 bugs at a bug eating competition. Do you see the outlier here? Raise your hand. Tell me the outlier, Will. 2. This number is much different than all the other data. Okay? So we're going to look at the difference between how an outlier affects each of these measures of center. One for sure we know it affects. What does it affect? The average, right? The mean that we talked about yesterday. We saw that the average gets affected by outliers. Let's look at if it affects the mode or the median. So I'm going to rewrite these down here just in order from least to greatest because it makes it easier. 2, 26, 32, 33, 34, 34, 42. Did I forget any? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that should be right. Okay, so let's do this. I have a little table here. Why did that get erased? And let's find all of these values. Let's start with the outlier. We'll find the mean, the median, and the mode. Let's start with the mode. I think that's the easiest to start off with. What is the mode of this set of data? Colin? 34. Good. 34, oops, is my mode. What's my mode without the outlier? If I get rid of this 2, my mode is still 34. Does the outlier affect the mode? No. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. All right, let's put the 2 back in there. Let's do the median. All right, if I do the median, I'll cross off my greatest and least, greatest and least, greatest and least. What's my median? 33. Okay, I'm going to erase those. Put in 33. Okay, and now let's get rid of the 2 without the outlier and do the median again. Greatest and least, greatest and least. Okay, we're left with 2. So if we take the average of these two, 33 plus 34, divided by 2, I end up with what? 67 divided by 2, which is 33.5. Okay, does the outlier affect the median? Slightly, right, slightly, 33.5. It doesn't stay exactly the same. All right, now let's do the mean. So we're going to add these all up and divide by 7 with the outlier. All right, so we get 203, and we divide by 7, which gives us 29. So our mean with the outlier is 29. Our mean without the outlier is going to be what? 6, because we have one less value. And it is?
I got it right.
33.5. All right. Which measure gets affected the most by the outlier? Liam? The mean. And which gets affected the least? The mode. Okay? So really, truly, outliers affect the mean a lot. They don't tend to affect the other data points quite as much. Okay.
Will it affect the mode if the outlier is the mode? Oh, video game.
Yeah, that's true. But that's true. If it's like way, yeah, you're right.
The outlier is $18.
Okay. Okay. And then if you add shipping, so if you buy the video game and they're going to ship it to you, you add $4.98 to the price of the game. It says, how does this affect the mean, median, and mode? Okay, let's look at this. Let's start with, first of all, how do you predict before we do the work? How do you predict it would affect the mean? If you add $4.98 to the price of the video games to each one, what do you think is going to happen to the mean?
It's going to go up.
It's going to probably go up, right?
No, it's going to definitely go up.
Definitely go up. What about the median? Would that go up?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. If you're increasing all of the prices, the mean is going to go up. The median will also get bigger. What about the mode? If there is one. So what will happen if there is a mode? It will go up. Everything's going to go up because you are adding to every value. Right? All right, let's do the math real fast. Is $35.77 for a video game. All right, the median. Let's find the median. Cross off our least. Cross off our greatest. Cross off our least. cross off our greatest, and then we'll average those two. 27.97 plus 35.69 divided by 2. Median is 31.83. And then the mode is what? What's the mode of this data set? 53.42, because that comes up twice. What do you notice about these numbers? Which one seems to be an inaccurate representation of the data? Edna? The mode. It makes it look like a lot of these video games cost $53.42 when actually it's less than that, right? So the mode isn't always an accurate measure of center. The median isn't always an accurate measure of center. The mean isn't always a measured accurate of center if there's an outlier, right? So we have to kind of look at this data. That's why we talk about statistical questions. There's not always one answer. We're always looking at all of the data and all of these measures to try to make good inferences about the data. Which measure of center do you think would be the best representation of our data set?
The median.
The median, 31.83?
Yeah, I think so. I know the median.
If you can argue your answer, I can accept a little bit better. I agree. I think the median is the best because it truly shows an accurate measure of center. We don't have any huge outliers here. So I think the median is a good measurement of a center of this data. All right. Let me see if there's any more. How much does a pair of these shoes cost? That is statistical because there's not one answer. We've got 8 different pairs of shoes at all different prices. So what we're going to use is we're going to use these measures of center. We're going to use these measures of center to try to make a good statement about what the shoes cost, whether that's the average, the mean, which is the mean, the median, or the mode. Okay? So let's do quickly. We'll find each of these. Let's start with we'll do mean, median, mode. Let's start with the mode. That's always the easiest to find. Is there a mode? Yes, 40 comes up twice. So our mode is $40. Is that a good representation of the cost of the shoes? No. This isn't going to be a number that we want to use to help describe the cost. It's much lower than a lot of the other than all of the other shoes.
But there's an outlier.
What is it?
142.
That's true. That's true. But saying a pair of shoes costs $40 is not going to be accurate, right? Let's try the median. Let's do highest, lowest. Nope. That they didn't ask us about size. Highest, lowest. Okay, and then we'll do the average of the last 2 left. So 65 plus 57 is 122 divided by 2. So $61 is our median. Does that seem a little better? Yeah, it's a little closer.
The best one.
Let's do the average, and then we'll make a good argument for that.
I already know that, we're just gonna not that good.
Let's do it. 40
Tell that we're
plus 142 plus 57 plus 65 plus 51 plus 68 plus 40 plus 85. And divide by 8. There are 8 pairs of shoes. So 68. 0.5, and because it's money, we will put the 50 cents. Okay, don't just put 0.5, 0.50 if you're talking about money, because 50 cents. All right, why would you argue for one or the other? Median? Why?
Or the shoes are like closer to the median than the mean.
I agree. More of the shoes are closer to the median than the mean. This outlier does throw off the mean. right? It makes it higher than probably the real shoe price is, okay? So the measures of center, we look at all of them and we figure out which one is the best representation of the answer to this question,
Usually
okay? Median's usually pretty good. Yeah, I would agree. All right.